This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another edition of WCM's Park Update, which is sponsored by Campgrounds of America. And of course, my esteemed colleague is here, Mike Gast, president of the Emiola Group. And it's great to have you here, Mike. It's not snowing in Nebraska yet, is it?
I'm sitting here in a short sleeve shirt. It's going to be 85 degrees today, and all I see on my screen are people in hoodies.
Our guests today are Aaron and Dan Thiem, the owners, and I mean, you guys built the park pretty much, of In Town Campground in Nevada City, California. And I guess just to start, give us a little bit of background on how long you guys have owned the park and how big it is, I guess.
Okay, we built the campground. We purchased the property 11 years ago, and we just completed our 9th season. So we've been open for a little over 8 years. And the campground is 15 acres, and we have a total of 70 campsites, a mix of tenting, glamping, and RVing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 9 years you guys have owned it, I mean, you've been recognized pretty well. I know you guys have been recognized as the #1 best RV campground by USA Today's 10 best for 3 times in a row, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
3 times. Yeah. And that's a pretty neat accomplishment. I guess, you know, when we see contests like that, I guess, what does that do for you guys as park owners, I guess? Has that helped to drive business to the park?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The people, they come in throughout the year, actually. You'd think it would be kind of right when it gets announced, but people come through and say, wow, I think I saw you, get an award. And then we kind of talk about it and what that means. And then like local news stations pick it up. So we've had, Sacramento News come and do spots with us. Yeah. So it definitely is great for us.
So do you get like
Go ahead, Ben.
Do you get like a certificate for that? Do they mail you a certificate? Or?
You can purchase one. Those options are available.
Okay.
Always. So were you guys natives of Nevada City, or was, I guess, what makes Nevada City such a great place for a campground?
Well, it's an amazing place.
Yeah,
right?
It is a great place for a campground. But no, I grew up in Nevada City, and prior to running the campground, we owned and operated a small motor court motel, which had been in the family. So we've been in the hospitality industry before we decided to venture outside.
Yeah, and you guys write a column for Woodall's, and you guys kind of describe the process you went through selling that motor court, I think, a couple months ago in a column. So what was it? So maybe you're more attuned to what the differences are between owning something like that and owning a campground, I guess. Were there any major differences that maybe you hadn't thought of that you noticed when you opened up your park?
Yeah. I mean, the facility work at the campground is exponentially more, right? You just have that many more sites. Our campground is in a forest, so who knew that we had to manage a forest now, and what comes with that? So the operation is just a lot more complex at the campground than at the outside inn. The guests tend to be a little more self-reliant at the campground, so that part's been nice. But they often appreciate that we came from a hospitality background, because it just changes the mindset a little bit of how you approach your interactions with customers and maybe try to anticipate some of their expectations.
So I'm sure you evolved a lot probably in the last 9 years. What 1 or 2 things that you didn't do right away that you kind of wished you would have done, and you probably have done by now?
At the campground, we talk about how we have matured and had more trust in our self-sufficiency of campers over the years. When we first opened, we thought we had to be there physically present, handhold everything. And as the years have gone on, we're like, oh, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I'd say that's like a holdover from owning the motel business, right? We were used to customers that really needed a lot more handholding. And it took a while for us to get comfortable with the operation and even change our operations so that we just kind of figure out, what, they're campers. They'll figure out where their site is if they come in at 10 o'clock. We don't need to sit there and wait for them.
So what's the facilities look like now? How many sites, how many glamping facilities?
So we've got 70 sites. Of those, 21 are glamping units, 16 are RV sites, and then the rest are regular tent sites.
Wow.
Okay.
So, and I know I ran into you guys at the glamping show, Americas. We were actually on a panel together. And I mispronounced your last name, so it happened. So I just realized it. Were you guys there looking at, they had the 70 plus units at the glamping show. Were you guys there looking at units to add to the park, or are you guys pretty happy with what you have so far, I guess?
I mean, things evolve. We've definitely converted tent sites into glamping tents over the course of the last 9 years. But we can't make our park any bigger just because of our next door neighbors. So, yeah. Yeah,
and we sort of have like a specific aesthetic at our campground. So we have a kind of glamping unit that we use. Well, we actually have two. One's a yurt, but the rest are these kind of like miners' tents that fit our old gold mining town. And so in terms of structures, like even if we do expand glamping, we'll probably go with the ones that we have just because they kind of fit the aesthetic. But we really like going to the show just because it's a very different mindset than the campground mindset, right? So when you go to even like Ojai or COE, it's very specific, often very focused on RVs. And this is just sort of an outside of the box experience, and it really stretches our brains in a different way.
So what about the customer differences? It's got to be you spoke about the self-sufficiency of a camping customer, but does that carry over into a glamping customer?
It can.
It depends. Not always. I mean, we get a lot of families, so I feel like people who are camping with kids sometimes need a little extra help, or at least know that there's someone there who can be of assistance. So I would say that glampers do need a little bit more than RVers, perhaps.
Yeah, but not always. One thing that's interesting about our campground, and maybe a lot of other campgrounds that have glamping, is we get a lot of mixed groups. And by that I mean people that are with like an RV and a tenter and a glamper, just based on what they need. And so they tend to be a little bit more self-sufficient. We kind of talked about this or generally got talked about at the glamping show that, what is glamping, and that idea is very different for a lot of people. So if somebody's come from a really posh kind of glamping setup down in Yosemite, for example, and then they come to us, we're very much more like a campground than an exclusive luxury glamping resort. And so that can be a mismanagement of expectations, right? And those people need a little bit more handholding.
Do you find that you have to explain to like potential campers a little bit more about what you're going to offer through the glamping tents, I guess? Like, do you have to explain more than maybe like just saying the length of an RV site or something like that, I guess, so they know what to expect?
No, I feel like the campers who arrive generally have a pretty good idea. We've got lots of pictures on the website, lots of information. I feel like the ones that we need to help are the ones who are new to whatever type of outdoor recreation, whether or not they just bought a trailer or they're tent camping with their kids for the very first time. Or, I'm like, look, there's our website. So the people that need a little extra help are generally people that are trying something new, and that can go across the spectrum of types of camping.
Yeah, you have like a 360 tour here from Campground Views. The tents look beautiful. Who's the manufacturer of the tents?
So the tents themselves are manufactured by a semi-local company. They're out of San Rafael, called Sweetwater Bungalows. And we came across them because they supplied tents to Costa Noa, which I don't know if you guys have heard of that campground. It's a KOA/park down.
Oh, yeah.
And, that was years and years ago. And so we tried one of their tents when we started to have to replace some of the original ones. And it's a great product. The the thing I really like about them is I can redo the frames inside to suit my needs, right? So all the framing and everything is kind of our own design, and that just gives us a little more creativity and a little bit more, I don't know, response to what we want from the tents and from the facility.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have some gorgeous pictures here, and you guys are closed during the winter, correct?
Well, the glamping tents are closed in the wintertime, so we have a reduced operation, we like to say.
Yeah, the RV sites are open year round, and if you want to
Okay.
come tent camping in your van in the wintertime, you can. A lot of our national forest campgrounds in our area are closed in the winter, and so we're a good alternative for the person who wants to come camping in the winter.
So do you have to seal those glamping tents up pretty tight for the winter, or do you take them down?
We don't take them down, but we take all the furniture except the beds out, and we close them up pretty tight. But we go in them daily. We're kind of in a part of California that's quite wet in the wintertime, so we just make sure that they get a lot of ventilation and just check on them. But they hold up really, really well.
Yeah, so you guys have traditional tent sites too, where people can bring their tents. I know a lot of park owners that I've spoken with in the past are like, oh, we're getting rid of the tent camping because they just don't like dealing with the customers, I guess. What's the difference between some of what you see on the tent side and maybe on the RV and glamping side? I guess, is there a different type of customer that tent camps, I guess?
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
Think about, it's a more affordable way to go camping. So we definitely like that we can provide people an option to come experience outdoors without having to necessarily spend multiple hundreds of dollars for a weekend away. And do we have a different type of tent camper? I mean, yeah, they're the whole mix. They're single people, they're families, they're couples, they're retirees, they're...
It is interesting, though, like in the campground space, you're right. A lot of people have gotten rid of or reduced their tent sites.
Yeah.
We don't typically experience some of the problems that we hear other parks experience with our tenters. I don't know if that's because ours feel, we're in a forest. It feels kind of like a state park. I don't know, but we don't tend to have a lot of those issues. Occupancy wise, it's a lot more weather dependent, as you'd expect, right? When it's 40 degrees and rainy, people just don't want to set up their tent and sit by a fire. But every weekend, it's full and people are having a great time. It's really kind of a neat energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great.
So what kind of staff do you have to operate?
We run a pretty lean staff. So I think in the season we have about 10 people. One of those is full-time. The rest of them are part-timers. The biggest impact operationally is the glamping tents. Just the servicing and cleaning of those. It takes a lot of manpower. Facility-wise, it just kind of depends. We almost put as much work in the off-season to the facilities we do during the season, just like I said, for the tree maintenance and road maintenance, all that kind of stuff.
So does most of your help come local, or is it work campers?
No, just local.
Local. We have 2 night hosts who live on site. That they're not really work campers. One of them's been with us since the beginning, right? So almost 9 years, and the other one is just new this season.
So let's talk insurance for a second. You're in a forest in California. What's happened to your insurance in the last year or two?
I mean, we still have insurance, so let's be grateful for that.
Yeah, no, seriously, we joke, but that is actually the thing that we worry about every time we renew. And rates have gone up, of course. Funny enough, the fire portion of our insurance is the most reasonable. It's the liability insurance that is the most expensive portion of it. So, but we're lucky, right? We're in the city, so we have city water, which means we have fire hydrants around camp. We have a forest, but it's very well maintained and thinned out. So in terms of the risk of wildfire on site, it's pretty low. And there's all sorts of other things that go into that, but we know what the situation in California is not unique, right? Florida and Texas, they're going through the same thing with some of these natural disasters.
Yeah. It's going to be incredible to see what insurance does in Florida after the hurricanes. So,
if they even do it, right? They might end up with the same problems.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're going to take a break, recognize our sponsor, Campgrounds of America, and we'll be back in a minute. Campgrounds of America is the leading brand in camping, known for its 60-plus years of expertise and trusted quality. By joining the KOA family, franchisees benefit from the strong brand recognition, operational excellence, and a proven business model designed to foster growth and success. The flexible franchise options empower owners to achieve their goals while providing an exceptional camping experience for guests. To learn more about joining the KOA family of campgrounds, visit ownakoa.com. Hi, welcome back to WCM's Park Update, and we are talking with Aaron and Dan Thiem of In Town Campground in Nevada City, California. And you know, some of the trends, I guess we want to talk a little bit about trends that you guys are noticing this year, maybe compared to the past few years. One of the trends that Mike and I hear quite a bit about is the booking windows. Have you noticed like booking windows shortening, I guess, this year, where people aren't planning as much in advance as they were in previous years?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of, there's two sides to that. That's the more casual travelers. We still have regular groups who are booking a year in advance. You know, they show up, they book for the next year, and those regular groups are still doing that. So we haven't noticed that part fall off. We did notice throughout the summer that, the forward bookings aren't nearly what they used to be. Sometimes, though, it's hard to attribute that to a specific thing. You know, it was a really hot summer for us, so people might be like, I'm going to wait and see if it cools off.
So ultimately, your occupancy rate has changed a lot or not?
Not a lot, a little bit for sure. I mean, occupancy's down a little bit. Revenues about, I think we were actually up 1 or 2% this year, which is amazing because a lot of other parks are down substantially. That at least I assigned to a really nice fall without smoke.
Yeah.
I guess, is your fall business picked up then? Since it was hotter, is it picked up here in the fall?
I mean, as Dan said, the air quality is a huge contingency in California fall camping. So like 2020, September was really terrible. And then like 2023, it was decent. So it's really a matter of what's happening in the rest of the state. But so far this year, knock on wood, things have been great. The air quality's been good. The temperatures have been unseasonably warm, which does extend the camping season a little bit. So.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say the hard part is, even though the weather's great, you know, the kids are back in school. So a lot of the family camping, you know, we had fall break or you get sort of Columbus Day, those kind of 3-day weekends, but you don't get the midweek as much as you normally would in summer.
I was going to ask you if camping desires, what the campers are really looking for when they get there. Have those evolved? I know you're in the forest. You've got, are they just looking to be left alone? Or are there amenities that you just had to add because the public wants that?
I mean, we're not a full-service campground. I think about some of these Jellystones and KOAs and the resorts that you're like, wow, this is like a full 5-star experience. And that's not our campground. As we said earlier, we are a campground, and we honor that. It's more of a natural experience. So our amenities include a swimming pool and outdoor movies for the kids, and you can walk into downtown. But we haven't added anything in particular over the time. We just
we're not actually getting a lot of people asking for more things. We're lucky in the sense that we have great hiking in the river and mountain biking. There's all sorts of things to do within 10 or 15 minutes of our campground or less. So people tend to come to want to do that sort of thing. Although I got to say, one thing that really surprised us about our campground is the number of people who just hang out.
Yeah, they don't do anything. They just relax.
We thought they'd be all gone, but no, they're just sitting there, cruising around on their county bikes.
So one of the things I noticed post-COVID, back in the crazy days post-COVID, was a lot of campground owners decided that, hey, I can do this 2 or 3 times, and so they were out buying 2 or 3 more parks. Any desire to do that on your guys' side?
No, as Ben referenced, we wrote an article for Woodall's about selling our other business. So we're going the opposite direction. We're like, oh, wait, why did we have 2 concurrent hospitality businesses at the same time with children in the house? I don't know what we were thinking. Well,
the other thing is we've kind of decided and learned about ourselves that we really like being involved in the operation. You know, we like knowing the customers, and I like being out there cleaning things and just, you know, getting my hands dirty. And I feel like the more properties you begin to acquire, or the more businesses, the less of that you get to do, and you start managing more by spreadsheet and reports, and that's not as appealing to us. So we're happy with what we do, and you know, hopefully we'll kind of grow and pivot as the market moves. But we're pretty content exercising our brains the way we do.
I mean, I think you guys are missing a great opportunity to own like 5 parks. Then you could come out with a mascot, Dan, and you could be like Chippy a squirrel or something. I don't know. You could be walking around. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Ben. We'll take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So as you look to like 2025, what are some things that you guys are looking at, when, you know, adding to the park or maybe doing at the park, I guess?
So, well, there's kind of some like logistical things with like the glamping in particular, right? I'm always looking at ways to make that a more efficient operation. Mm-hmm. So we're going to change out some of all of the beds to make them. I mean, it sounds crazy, right? Here I am talking logistics, but if you have like boxed in bed frames, not cleaning under the bed, that saves you, 5 minutes a tent, right? So there's things like that we're working on. We're gonna put some small games out, like a giant chess set.
He's been saying this for years.
I know, but we're gonna do it this year.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to build a bunch of chairs for our outdoor movie theater. So one of the things that people often comment about our campgrounds is that they like the small details that we always put in. So even though these seem like mundane tasks, when we get to do them ourselves, we can always put our own spin on it. And people notice that kind of differentiation. So it's worth it for us to put that effort into it.
So walk us through your marketing a little bit. What's that like in a park your size?
I mean, it's pretty organic. I like to take pictures, so that definitely helps. I think about those campground owners that I've met over the years that are like, I hate social media. I can't think of anything worse. I don't like any of it. And I'm like, really? I don't know. I enjoy all of it. So it's just, continuing to remind our customer base of who we are and what we offer on a whole variety of platforms.
It's more organized than that, Erin. Like So here's what she'll do. I'll give you an example, right? In the off season, she'll come up with all sorts of content and she'll pre-schedule it for the busy season. So it's a lot more strategically thought out. It's like, okay, we know that, for example, you're coming into spring, so she'll collect all of her spring photos and she'll say, okay, I'm going to post it to these different platforms and have it ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, before, when we owned a motel, I had a local blog, so I have a wealth of content. So I just joke about, like, Halloween's really picturesque because we have all these amazing decorations and fun campers, and I'm like, I could sit on my couch for years and talk about Halloween without having to walk outside. So
yeah, and it seems like you guys are really intentional about taking photographs of the park, and obviously you have the virtual tour. Do you guys do that photography on your own, or is that something you guys have someone come in and do?
No, that's all Erin.
That's me. I mean, occasionally I'll have someone else come visit, but I actually quite like collaborations with other professionals, but most of the work that's on our website and social media is done by me.
Yeah.
So you have how many influencers?
Yeah, I've done some campaigns with influencers. Also have some local photographers that are friends. Like, I invited a friend over when we had Halloween decorations, and she came and took some pictures. So,
yeah. I guess you guys go to quite a few conferences, but you guys also seem like you think everything out. Like, you have really good plans for what you want to do at the park. But is there anything when you go to these conferences? Has there been anything that you've just made like a spur of the moment decision to do? I guess.
I feel like last year, after we went to the glamping show, we definitely had that revelation about our campground reservation system. We had been thinking about it, stewing on it, trying to, and we went to a seminar and we're like, all right, that's it. We're changing ship. So
we wrote one of those articles for Woodall's about that process, and I don't know. We tend not to be very impulsive when it comes to decision making, but one of the things, and the reason we go to these conferences all the time is you just don't, because we're so involved in the operation, right? Getting away from the operation and actually talking to people who understand the business side of it, we find really, really helpful. It just lets our brains kind of explore a different part of the business. And I'll come back with 4 million ideas. It all gets tempered by the staff, and they're like, great, Dan's got, 4 million ideas. How many of these are we going to actually do, right? And some of them have been really great, and some of them have been total duds.
Or don't materialize.
Yeah.
How much does your camp store evolve on a yearly basis? Do you find products at these conferences that you tend to add, or do you listen to campers? How does that work?
We talk about when we opened our campground, we had no retail experience between the two of us, like none, absolutely zero. And so from where we started to where we are now, I mean, our camp store makes a good amount of money. So we've definitely added layer on layer every year.
Yeah.
And yes, conferences, local, national ones have been great for introducing new product lines.
That's been something I've noticed at conferences that's been being added more, and is the retail aspect. I think more conferences are looking at that retail aspect. I know at Campgrounds of America's conference this year, they're actually going to have a whole retail store with like training on the expo floor. And I know at Campground Owners Expo, which you guys go to, I think they've done some retail stuff definitely at that conference. And Jellystone always does a ton of retail stuff. So that's been interesting. I think people are realizing you can make a lot of money at the
camp. It's been, of all the aspects of the business, that's been the one that we've learned the most over the years, is the retail side of it.
Yeah. If you add a mascot and park them outside the store, I've heard that helps.
I think he's looking for a job.
I got to have a backup plan. So, how can people connect with you guys? I guess I know you guys are going to at least the Campground Owners Expo. Are you guys going to any other conferences this year?
Well, we're for a shout out to 2025. We'll be at the Campground Summit West, one in Reno, which is at the beginning of April. We'll definitely be there. And then we'll be at COE, and you can find us online. And we've talked to lots of people in person and virtually over the years. So we're definitely approachable and happy to connect.
Yeah. Or good old fashioned email, right? Info at In-Town Campground will reach us, or Dan or Aaron at In-Town Campground.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And you guys are always, it's been, you guys are always seem to be available to help other park owners too, which is great. So,
our postscript from the glamping show is that we had lunch with a prospective campground owner, which is one of those where you meet these people and they're all in that infancy, we're so excited stage. And now you can add dream crushers to our resume as we
burst his bubble.
He pulled the pin and got out of escrow.
I know. Then you feel kind of
bad. When I used to teach a class at KOA University, which they would have for all the new owners in Billings, Montana, and folks would show up, just bought their first park, and they ditched their careers wherever it was and invested their life savings into this park. And when we asked them why they bought a campground, they always said, our family's been camping for a long time. We love camping. And my line was always, you're never going camping again, because you're working it now. You're on the east side.
I mean, we went camping last week, so there is hope for those people.
Oh, wow. There you go.
You can never
get it right.
Yeah.
Well, but it's, you have to be intentional about it, because you kind of don't want to. And truth be told, when we go camping, we do places that are different than our own campground, right? Because if it gets too close to home, all I'm doing is looking at garbage cans and litter and things like that, which you want to fix.
There's so many different experiences out there to have too. So there are some amazing mirror glamping resorts that I have to get to here soon. So, but I remember hearing Diana Kelly speak during the glamping show. I know she didn't speak this year, but I don't know if she spoke last year, but she would always give a shock to people too during her speeches on starting up a resort. So sometimes it's good to have that stuff though when you're starting an idea. So, but it was great having you on, Dan and Aaron, and I look forward to seeing you at the Campground Owners Expo here in a month and a half, I guess. It's coming up, and I hope the rest of your year goes well. So
thank you. Thanks for having us.
Ben. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
All right, and thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com.